Wow. I'm charging my car right now, so this is definitely not the best. Definitely not the best setting for the camera as the sun goes down. What can I do? I don't know what I can do this year. Maybe we can improvise here. Put something up over my visor. Ah. Let's see here if we could. Let's see if we can improvise a little bit. Block the sunlight. Okay. Almost got it all. Okay, sorry about that. That's pretty awkward. Okay, so I just watched the congressional hearings yesterday on the David Grush and the other UFO analysis, UFO investigation. And I just had a couple thoughts I want to share. There's probably a better time to make this video, but I don't have a lot of free time. I work a lot, and I have to go to the restroom right now, but I'm going to hold it through the whole video just to spill the beans. So, there's a couple things I wonder if anybody else caught, and just some speculation of what I think might be happening. Number one, you hear a lot of people say, oh, it's bipartisan hearing. Well, number one, governments lie and all governments lie. And when you hear them talking about it's just like left wing and right wing are two wings on the same bird. So the government's investigating itself, number one. And how many strings you think are being pulled in whatever the topic is. So take everything in this hearing with a grain of salt. Number two, seems to be a little bit of a history of recently, the past couple of years, as both sides try to get one up on each other, of actually spilling a little bit of truth and a lot of destruction and a lot of division. But recently with propaganda, mainstream propaganda, you seem to see a little bit of crumbs of truth coming out. So, and that's just not in the UFO scene, that's in political scene, people attacking each other. And that's kind of a dangerous road to go down, because when everybody starts throwing a little bit of truth, what the so-called other guy does, but in reality everybody's doing that, then you're going to get to the situation where a little bit of truth starts to become a lot of truth, and there starts to become cracks in whatever the my visors come down here, sorry. Whatever the propaganda, whatever the mission of the propaganda, whatever message you're trying to hide, is going to come out if little pieces come out. So, and with this UFO hearing, that might be something that's happening. Number two, I mean, we're hearing more and more and more. Is it inevitable that we might have some kind of new big information coming out? Who knows? But I really like the nonstop use of non-human and a non-human entity. That's really great, because it could be extraterrestrial. Why not extraterrestrial? Extraterrestrial, outside of this terrestrial Earth. No, not alien, not foreign, not outer worldly, but specifically non-human. If you have a transcript of the whole hearing, how many times did you hear non-human? So that must be telling you that non-human, and most likely not extraterrestrial. Okay, we want to specifically say it's one thing, and if we're specifically not saying it's another, then we're kind of denying the other, if we're being so specific as to non-human. Okay, but not extraterrestrial. So that was said a lot by David Grush, and a lot of the people in the hearings said that, non-human. So thinking about non-human, now let's jump ahead in that hearing where they talked about over and over and over and over and over. All the white noise, I like to call it. All the white noise about, we don't have a chance to report. There's no solid way to report for pilots and commercial pilots and private pilots to report. Come on. Like, there's no reports. And if there was a way to report, you think that's going to make it into the public arena? That's just kind of all distractions. But they also, when that was the white noise, the truth is, they all say, was it a product of American industry or DARPA, or was it a foreign country's product? And you heard more than one person say, it is not within the realm of our understanding of materials science. Not now, not anything 10 years from now. That is very specific. And that pilot commander, when he said, our physicists, well, number one, he said if we did have reports, we would be studying the kinetics, the movement of the ships. But he also said our physicists have studied something to the extent of the energy required to make those rapid moves. So when you go from 0 to 60 miles away in a half a second into Mach speed, he said the physicists have said that we don't have the energy source. So obviously those ships and whatever are using an energy source, okay? So bear with me here. You know, and also we've heard Grush say in the news hour, whatever that news media report is, and in the Senate hearing, they've mentioned interdimensional travel. Well, interdimension is not just mean another world, it also means time. Okay, well, I once met Dr. Ron Mallett, who wrote the book The Time Traveler, a physicist, famous physicist from the University of Connecticut, who is a theoretical physicist who said that by using lasers, time could be placed into a loop from the time, well, theoretically from the time the loop started. And he demonstrated that, but the problem with that experiment was, greetings, Dr. Mallet. I'm so happy to have met you. If you ever catch this video, I'll email it to you. If you remember his experiment, he said that the limitation on the lasers is the energy source to create a closed loop in time. Well, if that UFO, I want to call it UFO, they don't want to call it UFO anymore. If that UFO had the energy to move and defy our current understanding of physics, then I'm sure that it most likely has the same energy, which would be used to complete Dr. Mallett's theory of using lasers to create a time loop. Now, he said that you can't go back to before that time loop was created, though. That was a part of the study that works out in actual physics. According to the laws as we understand it, that's not like sci-fi land. That's a valid theory. So my prediction is that, and also was very important, that he said also during that, they asked him, is there any chance that it's another agency's creation, that we mistakenly have one agency discovering something another agency made? He said, well, hypothetically that could be happening. But he also said there's nothing of the agencies, any agencies before that have created that. Well, giving you the idea that there's been some big discoveries that happened before our current agencies exist, before DARPA or whatever, before the Air Force was its own thing. So there's some old things that we're talking about here that he acknowledged in a roundabout way. But if you look at the congressional hearing, he did acknowledge it. So I theorize that, and the biological life forms, as he said, biological non-human, Well, that's a broad description. And if you're going to be doing time travel and stuff or whatever, maybe humans can't handle that. Who knows? But so there's those things that I believe that they did talk about the energy required to travel, which is something beyond our current limits, but apparently they have it. They did mention repeatedly non-Earth or non-human entity, and they did mention occurrences in the past. Another thing that I don't know if everybody was paying attention to when one of the questions was asked, is there any international treaty to avoid conflict with UFOs and so on and so forth? And he said, well, according to, yes, there is. And he said, according to the United Nations, there is I don't know, he said a series of definitions of codes, definitions to communicate. And he said, you forgive me for not having the specifics, but he said that in 2013 it was declassified. And one of the things he said, it would do scholars out there well to study those terms and when those terms were used in the 2013 declassification. He said that to the Congress. He said scholars should study about that time those terms were used. So I don't have the time, but somebody out there needs to go out and study what was happening in that report he's talking about, and specifically and what it uncovers in 2013. So I as far as the other things, the orb and the cube and all the other things, well, clearly, this is a couple truth crumbs. I don't know if there'll be anything that comes out of the government investigating itself. But it's maybe getting to the point where I guess some people are getting scared. And they're getting scared, okay, what happens when people know and they look back at this time and say that I'm in the hot spot and I didn't say anything when I could have. So people are starting to get politically worried about their positions and what they go down on in history of reporting. So that's something that people are getting worried. And if you know what's funny is if you look at the congressional hearing, let me give you an example of something really funny. Like if you go back to that guy who talked about in Phoenix, he said, "Oh yeah, in Phoenix, is this anything related to those bright lights we saw in Phoenix?" And blah blah blah. And you kind of get the feeling from his body language and that whole questioning. He's not really serious. He doesn't believe it. He wants to kind of change the topic, right? But the guy that comes up for the other senator, when he started questioning, the senator that's sitting right next to that guy from Phoenix, I invite anybody to look at the body language of the senator next to him when he said, yeah, I was sitting on the DARPA board of directors or their so on and so forth, and I have access to all this information. And we have records of this happening, and we have this red orb. And when he started to become specific about some UFO encounters, don't pay attention to the guy that's telling you about these recounting of encounters. Pay attention to the guy next to him that just asked the questions about the lights from Phoenix. Look at his face as he's watching the other guy talk. And watch that whole monologue. As the other guy's talking, look at the guy next to him from Phoenix. Look at his eyes, how his eyes get bigger, how he looks like he's, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying this. Don't say it. Or he's thinking, this is bad news. We can't talk about this. Or he's got a general look of fear. Like generally a look of fear. So, and then at the end, he kind of, like you could see him like sighing. like almost like this. So it looks like the guy next to him is throwing out some truth books, playing the bad cop, but he's not truly going to spill the beans. But the guy next to him that's talking about like the simple-minded, did you see the, are you talking about the lights in Phoenix? You can see in his body language and the way his face gets actually red. Look at how red his face gets. Look at the look of fear in his eye. Look at the anticipation as he's watching the other guy, this guy that wasn't so serious. So something is going on, and there's a dance that's happening right now, and the question is what was really said? Does David Grush really want to blow whistles? Is he really trying to say something here? Was he giving you a clue? When he was he giving you a clue? Did you hear him when he said scholars need to check out the declassified, that event in 2013 that was declassified? Why it was declassified? You know, that's something that we need to look at, and I'll bet you if everybody out there counted the amount of turn, like you did a word count, if you had a closed caption and you ran it through an algorithm to count the number of keywords and the number of time that they were used, how many times were corrections made specifically to non-human versus extraterrestrial? Now, to go out a little bit in La La Land, I've always been curious myself, like Homo erectus or Homo, you know, we've been on this earth for about 100,000 years. And if you've ever seen that movie Ice Age Columbus, go check that out. That's pretty cool. But our last ice age was 10,000 years ago, which lasted 10,000 years. We call ancient history like 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. But we've had a lot of, like hundreds of ice ages. Some have been longer, some have been shorter. I like that Ice Age Columbus documentary because you could see the ice come and go on the earth in simulation. And these ice ages have been like mountains of ice, like a kilometer or more thick, of glaciers that cover the earth, scraping everything, destroying all record. I mean, look at us humans. We have a hard time with that. We barely know what's happened a couple thousand years ago. We had the Library of Alexandria that got destroyed. We got the Library of Baghdad that got destroyed. We have a lot of stuff that's being destroyed all over the place. We love destroying libraries, right? And losing information. And we have even the Chinese emperors, like in the 5,000. Some Chinese emperors destroyed all the books, and that's a great trait that humans have. So we have no idea what was happening during the last ice age. We have no idea what was happening to the civilization before. Check out Homo Nalandi on Netflix, that Cave of Bones. That's pretty cool. But who's to say, even in Pangea, even our continents have moved, and in the millions of years since Earth has been here. And try to remember that back in the 50s and 60s, you know, science thought that the math showed the Earth was older than the universe. It was only a couple equations that came out at that time, so that doubled the age of the universe as we know it. So that was only like 60 or 70 years ago. We discovered that the Earth is twice as old as we thought, and only recently with the James Webb Telescope that number's been pushed back even further. So what we know is relative to recent discoveries. There's more what we don't know than what we do know. When they talk about non-human entity, who's to say that we are the most intelligent life on this earth? Maybe we could pompously say, oh, right now we are, okay, but that doesn't mean that we always were. And go out, who's to say that we weren't smarter one time than what we are right now? Most of the time, humans live by water and rivers and stuff, and most of our old settlements were underneath the sea level right now. And when they weren't, there was hundreds of ice ages that scraped the earth. I mean, hard for evidence to survive, especially organic evidence, right? So, I mean, those Homo Nalandi bones that they found, they were a different Homo species and a smaller brain, right? But that was 300,000 years ago. That was like 180,000 years or so before Homo erectus was found. So who's to say when you hear all these terms, non-human entity? Well, I mean, somebody should have said, "Do you mean non-Homo erectus?" No, you didn't hear that answer. You didn't. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear that. You say, was that from the Homo species? Perhaps you didn't hear those specific questions, and you did hear interdimensional. That's actually not sci-fi. That's congressional record. Interdimensional travel, and people are jumping. Well, that was, I mean, another dimension. Well, it could be another time, and with the beings that we don't understand physics enough to understand how they got the energy source for their ships, which were clearly described as they don't want to say non-human, but not what we can make, not what any countries we know we can make, then hey, I mean, that opens up the possibility that it was somebody not extraterrestrial. They didn't say, "Do you mean terrestrial non-human?" Well, imagine if they would have asked that in the hearing. But like I said, you have the government investigating itself. How well do you think that's really working out? And how well? Come on, it's like having a corporation investigate. It's like having the military-industrial complex say, "Hey, you know what? We got to stop spending so much money." Funny that Elon Musk with his big mouth and all this, you don't hear Elon Musk talking that much about it, huh? With SpaceX and there's a lot of stuff that you don't hear mentioned, and you don't hear any mention of other countries' interactions with non-human things. You don't hear. You heard them talk about the Eastern Coast, and now it's happening everywhere. But do you hear like the world arena? Come on, this is the U.S. Most people in the U.S. are brainwashed that we don't even know the locations of provinces in China. If you look at them on a map, do you really think that an educated populace is something that the government strives for? And when they say things like, "We are united, our friends in this party and our friends in that party, this is non-partisan," well, there's a little bit of a truth on, because pretty much all the parties are the same. It's all a charade, I believe. But anyhow, sorry to go on my rant. I got it off my chest. For everybody that I know, I'm sorry, guys. I've been working my butt off. I'll get some other videos up on my personal life, and right now my reason of existence is to educate my kids, and I'm in a lot of debt, so I'm just working a lot, working so much, and it's like debt slavery. I'm like, it's more in debt than I can almost handle. But trying to educate the next generation, I just had to throw this out there. Tough times. I hope everybody's out there as well. It's a hard knock life, right? Talk to you guys later on. I hope everybody's well. Really, greetings, Peppermint Pig, greetings, John. Everybody out there. It's tough. I hope you're well. It's good to see you out there, and it's funny because the whole thing about the UFO hearings and a little bit of truth on. It's kind of like that whole thing in the U.S. about being woke. People talk about being woke. We know a little bit of this is wrong, a little bit of truths about that, a little bit of truths about it, and like it's illusion. There's nobody that's woke. There's no. What a great illusion that people are woke. Right? We didn't even need a hearing, man. Like you think you got a hearing? You think that something's coming out? Yeah, I'll talk to you guys about that in the room in the back. Like we didn't just get finished talking in the room in the back before this started. Oh my gosh. But anyhow, the truth is out there, guys. See you later.